Hello and welcome back to Always in Escrow with Colby and Sarina. Today we're talking about homeowners insurance, that property insurance that is especially relevant. Colby, can you introduce us to our guest today?
For sure. Hi, Sarina. So today we have Justin Ross, the owner, broker of Goosehead Insurance. He is my go-to. Justin, welcome to Always in Escrow.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys having me.
So I think the number one question I always get from buyers, sellers, how can I lower my insurance rate?
Yep, absolutely. So that is by far the question I get the most out of people that I talk to. And I mean, listen, we live in South Florida, so we basically have a big bullseye on us when it comes to hurricanes. So obviously that's going to have the biggest impact on the rate. So there's something called a wind mitigation inspection that people get when they purchase homes. And what that is it takes a look at the way that the roof is secured on the home and also the presence of what's called opening protection, which would be hurricane shutters, impact glass. And really the easiest way to, for people to make some progress on the rates is to make some changes with the roof. Sometimes you can do so without having to replace the roof. And there are some easy things that can be done. And also with opening protection, sometimes there's some small fixes that can be done on that as well to help sort of bring the home up to code and really take advantage of those discounts that are there.
Great. And is flood insurance included? I know that we're seeing a lot of different storms that come through, and maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another top question that I get when I'm speaking with people on this. And I think it's important to know that flood insurance is always separate from the homeowner's insurance. And a lot of people don't realize this because it is very confusing, when it comes to these kinds of losses. So let's say you have a pipe break in your home and water comes out from the pipe and ends up flooding out your home. That's going to look like a flood, but that's actually not a flood. And that's something that can be claimed through the homeowner's insurance. Or let's say hurricane winds lift part of your roof off and that lets rain in the home and that ends up flooding out your home. That might look like a flood to people, but it's not. It's considered kind of a normal homeowner's loss with that, or hurricane loss. So flood insurance is basically when that rain collects and then rises into the home, or you have that storm surge kind of effect where the winds from the hurricane blow that ocean water inland, and that causes that water to rise into the home as well. So that is a completely separate policy. It's a very important insurance to get. But it is separate from the homeowner's insurance. And that's something that I really make it a point to make sure people understand.
I always get another question. How do you determine how much a home is insured for? That's a big one.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that is a question that I get all the time as well. And I think probably the biggest thing that people don't understand when they're applying for insurance on a home is that the land is not a part of that, right? So I'm sure, as you guys know, when someone's purchasing a home on the coast, how much that lot of land that home sits on is worth, right?
Right.
So sometimes there can be really big differences in the amount that the home's insured for and the purchase price of the home simply due to the cost of that lot of land. So you could be purchasing $1 million, home on the coast, but only insuring it for $500,000, and the reason is because of the cost of that land. So that's the number one sort of differentiating factor there. That causes that to be so different sometimes.
Well, right now, what I know and what you know is that there's a flood of people coming from New York City and the entire Northeast that are looking to buy properties. They've successfully they're settling in Florida, South Florida. Is it harder to actually get insurance due to the volume of people that are coming to South Florida? Is there competition?
Yeah, so this is probably the most interesting question you could ask of all of them. And that is because we're in a very odd state in the market where you're absolutely correct. We got people flooding down here, coming from the Northeast, and there's a lot of demand for insurance, but the competition is not meeting the demand right now. And there's a crisis going on in the market. And that crisis basically revolves around the way that some roof claims are being treated that are out there and the length of time after a hurricane to file those. And having these roofing companies oftentimes go to court with the insurance companies, and attorneys get involved, and there's a lot of fees that are associated with that. And the end result has been a very difficult environment for insurance companies to make money, which has lowered, excuse me, the availability of more of a free market. So hopefully, moving forward, we can get back to that, and there could be some changes that are put in place to help progress that forward. But that's a very real challenge that a lot of people are discovering as they come down from the Northeast. Not to mention the cost of the insurance also being quite a bit higher now than it has been in the past because of those reasons I just mentioned.
Justin, set the record straight for me, because I have a lot of buyers giving me pushback.
Sure.
They all think that if they pay cash, they don't need insurance. Can you please set the record straight and tell them once and for all, is that a true statement?
Yeah, no, insurance is extremely important. And just think about, what you just said. You have a buyer coming and they're putting all this cash into a home, right? It's huge investment. They're investing a lot of money in this property. And to not insure it is something that could really be detrimental down the line. So at a very minimum, I think what every single buyer should be concerned with is liability, right? You have a buyer that's coming to the table with all this cash to purchase the home, and protecting these assets are extremely important. So at a very minimum amount, to have that liability insurance, I think, is absolutely crucial when it comes to that. And then secondly, there are different ways that you can insure a property if you're purchasing cash, because you're not against the restrictions of lending, and the requirements that they have. So sometimes you can insure it and you can exclude the wind coverage, which oftentimes can lower the cost as much as 100%, over what it would be otherwise. Or you could, take the full insurance, which is always recommended because, again, you're protecting a large asset. So, there are different situations, different ways to go about this. But just to reiterate, at a minimum, every single person, every single buyer should have that liability insurance at least in force on that.
I think that this is going to be a great open-ended conversation for us to, revisit as we kind of keep our finger on the pulse. And I know you are too. Finger on the pulse of what's happening in Florida real estate right now. Knowing so many people are coming from the Northeast. Is there anything else that you wanted to share or anecdotes before we sign off today?
I would just say that, insurance is incredibly important. And one of the things that I pride myself on, and, one of the ways that I have built a successful business is truly caring and really being an advisor with people. So, when they're coming to the table and they're asking for my help, I have no problem taking the time to explain everything to them because of how important it is, just to make sure that they understand, the concepts of how the home is insured and the different angles that are there.
And how can our audience find you? What's the best way?
Perfect. Yeah. So the easiest way to get a hold of me, you could go ahead and respond by a phone call, a text, an email. My phone number is going to be 954-880-2318. Email is going to be Justin, that's Justin, period. And then my last name is Ross, Ross. And that's going to be at Goosehead. So goose like the animal, Goose, head like your head, HEAD.com.
Great. Well, we appreciate your time. Colby, any last words or questions or anecdotes?
I just want everyone to know that, listen, you can use any insurance broker you want, but at the end of the day, give Justin a chance and you will see how he shines. He's amazing. So I've used him for years. My clients have used him, and people that think that they have the best person, they speak to Justin like, whoa. So definitely reach out to him. You owe yourself that. So
thank you, and we will be seeing you soon.